Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Katriana, and I'm a composer and a private music teacher from Minnesota. I recently started my YouTube channel in hopes of sharing my original music, maybe some covers, some arrangements I've done, and also starting today discussions on creativity and well-being, and to just promote an environment of empathy and authenticity. So so this is going to be kind of the first discussion that I do on creativity. I've also decided to kind of make this a blog too. So for those of you who prefer to read rather than watching a video, you guys can go check out the blog post that kind of correlates with this topic for today, which will be about creativity in our modern day era, kind of living in a fast-paced world. So as you can probably tell, I haven't come up with the title yet, but so I hope you guys enjoy this. If you'd rather go read the blog post, it'll be on my website, katrianamusicstudio.com. So we're going to get started. So creativity is a very human element, right? And it's surrounding the idea of the imagination and what requires deeper thinking to come up with new and valuable ideas. This not only applies to artists or musicians. Anybody can use creativity to better their lives, their work, or their relationships. Scientists and engineers use a great deal of creativity to come up with new solutions to many problems and challenges they face. For example, teachers also use creativity to come up with the best way to instruct their students and to help them understand new topics in a way that they can comprehend. Writers and journalists use creativity to clearly communicate a story that will help capture their readers' attention, and that accurately portrays the information. You might also use creativity to plan a get-together for your friends and to make it special, right? That's how we come up with meaningful ideas. So there are many situations where creativity comes into play. In order to tap into this creativity, it requires time and the freedom to be with yourself. You must slow down and allow yourself to deeply think and ponder or even daydream. Unfortunately, in our modern day society, where high productivity, constant communication, and fast-paced work are valued, it has become more difficult for people to use their creativity or feel like they have the permission to do so. And I'm not saying this applies to, every workplace or every environment, but, our modern day technology, AI, social media, it's all made it very difficult for us to feel like we can slow down and really get creative. And sometimes it's hard to feel like we're human, right? Please don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying that productivity, and using AI is a bad way of living. I'm saying that, productivity and consistency in your habits and your work is actually important, but much of our society is promoting the wrong kind of productivity and lifestyle that leads to burnout and feeling unfulfilled. For artists and musicians, this is a dead end because we live in such fast-paced lives and value high productivity. There's a need for what we call instant gratification, and the amount of patience many people have left is dwindling. We feel as if we don't have time to be creative and to let ourselves just be in the moment, to meditate, maybe to be playful and have fun, to put our phones away and not look at our communications for an hour or two. That's pretty foreign to us nowadays. Maybe we feel like we can't go for a walk, or we can't take that vacation time that we need to reset because we just have too many things to do and not enough time. Maybe we feel like we can't sit down and experience a 2-hour play because we're just thinking of all the things that we have to do next, and we can't sit there for 2 hours. It feels impossible, and we start to get impatient. And so we're like, why bother? You may feel like you don't have enough time to learn a new activity that you've always wanted to try. And, this is kind of sad when you think about this. We're human, and we're supposed to be doing these things. We're losing our playfulness and our imaginations, and we cannot seem to quiet the chatter that's going on in our brains. For artists and musicians, this is crucial that we find a way to quiet the chatter and to not fall into the toxic high productivity trap. What many people don't realize is that you can change this lifestyle. It is possible, and you can get back to these human qualities and awaken your creativity again. The ironic thing actually is that when you allow yourself that time and you give yourself the permission to be human and to be creative, you actually become more productive. And I know some of you are probably like, what? But I mean, think about it. We're not meant to be machines or robots that are constantly working all the time, nonstop. We require time to rejuvenate. Our brains need time to recover, time for breaks without our phones or interruptions, and time to process our thoughts and to daydream. That's how we reflect on things, and we also keep things in our memory properly, and actually how we learn too. So if we can allow ourselves that time, we can start to think more clearly and do the deep work or create that meaningful art that is focused and of high quality. We can regain our patience and confidence and fall in love with the process rather than focusing too much on the outcome and giving up. The truth is that we do not need more time to do this. What we really need is the space and the lifestyle that consistently allows for creativity, deep thinking, and well-being, in which we will be more productive and require less time to do our work and be successful. So you might be asking, well, how do we change our lifestyle, and how do we allow ourselves to slow down? This is a very good question. So one of the first places to start is to get clear on what your life is like right now and what do you want it to look like. So kind of two parts to that. So we need to figure out what our life is like right now. Maybe you want to kind of pause here and jot this down in a notebook, or just brainstorm in your head or reflect. And then what do you want it to look like? So this might look really specific to you. Maybe you already know, or maybe you're actually not really quite sure, and this might take a bit of a process to figure out, and that's okay. For me, in the past, I had to do a lot of reflecting and work for myself because I was taking on a lot of typical jobs with set hours that were outside of music and that I was not happy with. And in my head, it seemed logical at first. I could still make my living having this extra job while I was still growing as a musician, and then I would just try to find time outside of this job to make my music and to teach a few students, because I was kind of freelancing at the time, teaching some flute students. What I had to figure out was that my deep purpose and my calling in life was not going to happen if I got too comfortable with staying at the day jobs that I was unhappy with and that did not agree with me as a sensitive person and an introvert. And if I kept up the bad habits. I was on my screens way too much. I was staying stuck, and I was not giving myself the permission to work on my art and be creative. It was just a bad headspace, right? And I think sometimes in this modern day society, it's easy to get into that bad headspace with too much screen time, too much social media, and just too much scrolling time spent just wasted, where you're going through these different topics. Maybe you do learn something new, but then in a second you just forget it because you're scrolling on to the next thing. So it's really a harmful cycle. I started to convince myself that I didn't have enough time, and that being creative or having a creative job was selfish, and that maybe I wasn't good enough. And I just lacked the proper clarity and boundaries that I needed to fulfill my creative time and work as a musician. And I think sometimes I still fall back into that, and then that's when I have to remind myself that it doesn't have to be like this. I started to realize that I needed to quit the day jobs that had a workplace that was toxic for me, that did not agree with me as an introvert, and that did not align with my values. And I needed to rethink my routines and my boundaries to allow for that creative time. So I decided to quit this job where I was having to answer all these phone calls, reply to all these emails, chats, while also interacting with people at the front desk. And I think part of me did like it because I like helping people, right? But I'm so introverted, and just all the constant communication was not good for me. And I was really starting to burn myself out, and I got into a bad headspace too. And so yep, that's when I kind of was like, nope, this is it. I need to have better boundaries. And I'm not happy. I'm not giving myself that permission to work on my creative activities and to make my music like I want to. So that's when I decided to start establishing those boundaries between work and also my personal time, choosing not to scroll and be on my screens all the time. And I decided to keep it real with myself and become who I wanted to become. And this is still a process for me. Like, I'm still trying to come into fully who I am. And I think this is, this is kind of a journey for everybody, right? We're never, we never arrive at the point of who we really are. I think it's a constant journey. So you have to keep reminding yourself of that. And to allow yourself to come into who you are, allow yourself to be human and be creative. So yeah, so this process is never finished, but you can always better yourself and better your approach with it. So, but what I did know is that to allow this process to work, I just had to be self-aware and be as authentic as possible, right? And then all of your decisions that you make, even if you're not sure if they're right, like, they'll feel so much clearer and lighter. You won't second guess yourself so much, and you won't be too afraid of taking the risks and making the mistakes and trying. For artists, you have to be at peace with the idea of taking risks and messing up. Otherwise, it is going to be a really hard road for you. Yep. So make sure that you can get into that right headspace and be okay with taking the risks. Otherwise, it's going to hinder your creativity and confidence. And I'm still seeing that, day in and day out, as I keep heading on my creative journey, and you will too. Even if you're not an artist and a musician too, and you're working in a different kind of field. This happens all the time. But anyway, with all the lessons I've learned so far and the changes I'm continuing to make, I'm now teaching more music lessons. I'm freelancing more, and I'm working on this YouTube channel. I I think back in April, so not too long ago. And now I'm finally starting to block out my time to work on my compositions and my projects that I want to. So, the power of just digging deep and just allowing that space for yourself, it can do wonders with your journey and with your happiness and your headspace too. It has not been easy. Sometimes I second guess myself and I question how I might make it as a musician and creative. And you might too. But that's when you have to remind yourself to trust the process and keep being creative. That's the most important thing. You cannot control how things will turn out, but you can always control the actions that you take, which will give you the answers on where to go next. Even if you fail after taking an action, at least it gave you an answer, and then you can go on to the next point versus just staying stuck where you are. I had to learn that the hard way. You get frozen because you're just paralyzed with fear, and fear doesn't do you any good. You have to give yourself the permission to show up consistently and to resist falling into the high productivity trap that will ruin your art and your creative practice. You do not have to be a starving artist. There's actually a creator out there, and she's actually a writer and author I discovered on social media when I was actually kind of going through a hard time with this, and her name is Amy McNee. And if you need some more inspiration on your creative journey, then you should go follow her, or just go look her up if you don't have social media or you don't want to partake in social media. Just go look her up. And she recently wrote a book, We Need Your Art. Stop messing around and make something. I haven't read it yet, but I plan on reading it. And she's just a really great inspiration for artists and creatives, and also just people who aren't even really looking to be creative in like the workplace, in their field and stuff. It's just people just looking to get back into their creativity and their humanness, so and yeah, she did not tell me to say this. She doesn't even know who I am. I just really admire her. So yeah, go ahead and check her out. She's pretty amazing. So around that idea, once you develop that courage and you make those lifestyle changes and you develop good habits that allow you that space to be creative, you will have more stability, and hopefully you'll be able to tackle any challenges that come your way more efficiently. A new creative challenge actually that I recently had to face was figuring out exactly how I wanted to run my YouTube channel. When I first started, I was just posting any video or short that displayed my skills and that might help me get noticed as an artist. I don't really regret it. I don't know. When I first posted, it was kind of just baroque music or, just playing excerpts or just like practice tips. And I don't really regret, that, but I think you shouldn't feel like you have to post something, to get noticed and for, people to start following your YouTube channel, all of that. I think it should be more focused on just developing you as the artist and making the decisions you feel are right. And then you will be your most authentic self. And I want that on my channel. I want to be my most authentic self for you guys. And I want to attract the right audience is what I'm trying to say. So that's kind of been a challenge for me lately. Just trying to figure out just how to be a creative and also creating on a YouTube channel. It's actually kind of weird, am I saying the right word? The paradox with that, because creativity is such a slow process. and you really need that slow time sometimes. But content creation can be kind of stressful sometimes, and it can feel like we have to go fast and just produce as much as we can. And really, that doesn't go well together. So that's something I've also had to try to get past. It's a really big challenge for artists and musicians. So yeah. So we know that creativity is, it's a very slow, very deep process, and it's such a human element. It takes time, right? In our modern day world that encourages us to live fast paced and to give in to the toxic high productivity and just to have results, let's have the courage to actually slow down and take the necessary time to be creative. Maybe you guys have been presented with some tough creative challenges, or maybe you have a story you'd like to share in order to, teach us how to stay creative, avoid the burnout, and survive as a modern day artist. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear about your guys' stories. And thank you all so much for watching. This is kind of my first creative talk video / blog post that I will be putting up. So I would really appreciate all your support, and I hope you will join me for the next video. Thank you so much, and take care, everybody. Stay creative. Bye.